kids, welcome back to Roto Talk.
Hey kids, welcome back to this beautiful, gloomy, wet Sunday afternoon. Hang on. Alright, so just got back from Ohio, seeing the wife's family. She had some photo shoots to do, and thankfully we got some rain. Good Lord knows we needed it. So you can see there has been some changes with our development here, with our build. So the reason I saved one sponson to do on the channel. The reason I didn't show you putting these top skins on is because it's so easy to do. I honestly didn't even want to waste the time. So what you want to do with these tops, okay, and I'll put some pictures up here in the corner, is you want to take a sanding block, not this one. I use a 2x4 with 80 grit sandpaper, nothing fancy, and I go along this edge, the edges that we put in for our skin, and this edge, and the bulkheads. Make sure everything's nice and smooth and flush, okay? After that, if you haven't already, you need to seal the bottom sides of these. Same time you seal this, preferably. And then simply glue it down. Take some 30-minute epoxy, whatever you want to use, slather the crap out of it, flip it over. You want to tuck. It needs to go in below the nose piece, okay? Just like that. And then all the way back. And there will be some overhang. We need to shear that off later. And clamp the crap out of it. Now, one trick that I did, you can see in the pictures of the clamping. These rods that we use to clamp down the sponson bits, I actually use these again for this part. I actually put one here, and I put one here and clamped onto this. Worked really well. You don't have to do it that way. There's hardly any stress on this at all. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to put on the sponson. Alright, so first things first, you need to, the other thing I didn't show you before, I did glue on the nose tips. Just take some epoxy, glue on those little pine blocks, and then rough sand them in. It's easier to sand them now, to at least rough sand it in before the other sponson's on, because I use a power sander. So in this case here, this one, see, just a rough sand, nothing fancy. Okay, pretty simple. Now, you'll see you've got 3 holes here. Un, deux, trois, all right? And you've got 3 pins. You've actually got 6. Now, what they tell you to do, all right, is put a point on one of these ends, all right? And what you're going to do is, here's how I do it. I can't remember exactly how the manual says to do it. It's not rocket science. What I actually do is I CA glue them after I put a point on them into the sponson. I just CA glue them just to hold them in there. Pointing towards the hull. That's how I do it. All right. And then all these pins do, they're not for strength. They're to help you align it. They're going to go in this hoe, and the third one at the end. So first thing you want to do is make sure they fit. Okay. So what I do, I take a teeny bit of a rat tail file, and I loosen it up a little bit. A little bit. We're not deforming the hole, see? Big difference, all right? Or take a drill bit. I think it's 1/4 inch. Just make sure they fit, because once you get your epoxy on. Same thing with that one. Yeah, good enough. And then you just pulp him over.
Pop him over.
Alright, now, you need to put a tip on these. So how I do this, let me put this aside. Okay, alright. I cheat, imagine that. So I put it in drill. That's really all you need. You don't need to have, it doesn't need to be a pencil tip, okay? So we're going to do that 2 more times. You just want it tapered. Okay. Okay. Then all I'm going to do is take my super spray and our CA glue. Hey, it's not even clogged today. How'd that happen? Alright. And all I do is just set it in there. It doesn't even have to be perfectly straight. This is just to help guide it into the right place. There's one. Now this is not my medium CA, this is thin. So I might do 2 coats. Soaks right into it. 2. Like I said, not perfectly straight. It's okay. We're going to clamp and line this thing up anyway. And they say don't poke the foam. Obviously, try not to. Alright, now since I already spritzed it, do a little bit there. You don't want any bumps. The only thing separating, keeping it pushed away. Okay? Good deal, Camille. Alright. Now, for this edge, this is raised up a little bit, and I got epoxy schmutzing out. Okay, so what I do with this, I lay it on a flat surface, actually a toweled surface. I put a towel down because I don't like denting the wood on the other side. And what I'll do is I'll sand this down roughly with an orbital. Then I'm going to show you a trick. So let me at least get this edge off, and I'll be right back. I did forget to mention, before I put the sponsons on, and right after we put these deck skins on, I take some CA or epoxy with some of the silica powder, thicken it up, give it a little bit of a bead texture, right? And I put a seal along here and right along there. Now, because inevitably you'll probably have a tiny little gap here and there on where the skin goes. You do not want water getting into this. It's all sealed, but the problem is if you do get water in there, it builds up weight. And it's it's going to screw things up, so you don't want that. So what I do with that is I mix up so it's a little bit less consistent than toothpaste. And I take my finger and I simply smear a fillet in there. Okay, then I put alcohol on my finger and smooth it out. Now, the reason I do that before I put on the sponsons is it's much easier to sand this before the sponsons on. As a matter of fact, I still have to do that over here. And I'll hit this edge too. But something I want to show you, this is how I do my edges. And I did this on the sponson edge, the mating surface to this, and to this. Okay, this helps keep you level and straight. So what I do is I take dry guide coat. Okay, a can of this will last you about 35,000 years. All right, and what we do is you simply do this. All this is carbon dust. That's all it is. I doubt it's graphite. Okay. Then start sanding. You want to sand in long sweeps. Don't just go like this. Long sweeps until all that black comes off. This will show you if you're uneven or not. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand that down. If you don't want to buy this stuff, and I think it's on my Amazon list in the description, if you don't want to buy that stuff, a buddy of mine used to just take cheap old Krylon primer and just give it a quick squirt. Not paint it, but just give it some spit, and it works the same way. And then just sand it till the primer's gone, and and before you do your primer paint, or even after you do your primer paint, this stuff's really nice to use because it'll make all the dips and cracks show that you missed with your putty. So let me go ahead and sand this down so this is mostly gone, and I'll show you what we're doing next. Here's a trick I have done through the years, and it saves a lot of time. Okay, now I believe the manual shows you to basically dry fit the piece, and I already did, I know it fits, and then draw a pencil line scribing this bit to the sponson, and then you have a nice line, and then you know where to glue. I do it a little bit differently. I've always done it this way with sometimes riggers. It just depends on the boat. Tunnels. So I put some tape here. Okay. It's just how I do it. You don't have to do it this way. Makes you feel better to do it the way the manual tells you. Go for it.
You'll learn a lot, no doubt.
That's just what I do. It's faster. It's easier. I don't know if it's faster. Actually, it's probably not. I think it's cleaner, though. I put a bit there. Okay. Now, make sure you got your crease. Nice and crisp creases. Alright. Then what I do, and I do this with decals sometimes, I take sandpaper, 150 grit, at a slight angle, and all you're doing is just burning through that tape. You're not sanding the wood. Now what this does is gives you a perfect, usually, edge. Okay? And then make sure you push it back down. Now what this is JJ's patented glue guard. I'll show you what I mean. We're not actually hurting the corner. As soon as I see white coming through that, I'm pushing very, very lightly with 150. You don't even have to go all the way through. You can just basically perforate it. Like this. And it should peel right off. Now I do this, I've done this with pinstriping, you know, where you're a little bit over the edge. Don't worry about it. I do this with masking all the time. If I'm masking off a paint job or something like that, I don't give a shit where I put it, and I just take a sand edge and bam, pop it off. All right. Now get your schmutz off. Wipe it off with alcohol. Let's see, clean this up. All right. Now, what's nice about this is I am free to make a ginormous mess. Not a ginormous mess, but I don't have to be perfect and worry about it. And after I get everything all nice and duded up, I pull that tape off, all the excess glue comes with it. Okay? Now, the glue that I'm using for this, I discussed this earlier in the show, T88. This shit's been around for as long as I have. You can see I leaked a little bit there. Very, 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 very good stuff. The drawback to this, the good thing is, it's actually reasonably affordable. And you can glue your house to the ground with it. For a quart, it's $50, something like that. Which, if you add it up, is cheaper than the other stuff. The drawback to it is it takes, they say, 72 hours to cure. It actually takes 16. I wouldn't throw it in the water after 16. I clamped this sponson into place before we left for Ohio on Friday afternoon and left it. And now this one I'm going to clamp in place with clamps until tomorrow afternoon, because I have a bunch of work to do in the morning anyway. And I'll take the clamps off. But again, we're not throwing it in the water, you know, obviously. So what I found with this was, what did I say the other day? I think I did 8 and 8 drams, 8 drams, so 4 and 4. Okay. And I use a real brush. I put it on here. Then we're going to set our sponson. Now, how I clamp these on, I clamp it on at 3 points. I clamp it here, here, and here. Not on the pins. That part's not important, but you know. But what I use is a slide, a bar clamp, one of these dudes. I use 3 of these. Okay. Now, we all know Harbor Freight is hit and miss on stuff. You know, some of their shit's awesome for the price, and some of it's garbage for the price. I strongly suggest getting your clamps at Harbor Freight. They're cheap. You can buy them by the fuck ton, and they're great. So, I'm going to bar clamp this sucker into place. Very, very simple. So, what we're going to do, let me grab a brush. Right, so we're back. Sorry about that. So, it's reasonably cool out. I think it's maybe 68. So this is going to be a bit of a bitch to squeeze this stuff out. That's alright. You can always warm it up if you need to, but if you got strong hands, if you don't have strong hands, go get your wife until you just spent your 401k on rum and let her squeeze it. Kidding, jeez. All right, and we're gonna go to 8. This is the hard one. Okay, now I have used this epoxy before. It's amazing stuff for skins, deck skins, sheeting, I guess you could say. I call them skins. Side skins, top, bottom, phenomenal for that if you've got the time. Which you should. When you're doing skins, don't cheat, especially with bottom and top. Great stuff for the money. And you can seal your boat with this stuff too. I thin it if I seal it with this, but I don't thin it a hell of a lot. But this stuff's, now it's important, especially with this long cure stuff, well, all epoxy. Just because you mix it and you can't see 2 distinct shades doesn't mean it's mixed. You're supposed to mix epoxy vigorously for around 2 minutes. Well, if you're working with 10-minute, 5-minute epoxy, whatever it is, that cuts into your pot life quite a bit. But this stuff, since I'm in such a small container, and the reason I'm using one of these instead of one of my silicone cups is because my silicone cups aren't graduated. And with this structural, really heavy-duty structural joint, I want to make sure, you guys see me do epoxy all the time where I just kind of wing it. But I don't usually wing it with skins or something like this. I usually do measure fairly as accurately as I can, and my silicone cups are not graduated. So I'm using my throwaways for this. So now, since this thing has like a 45-minute pot life before it even gets warm, basically, you got plenty of time to mix crap out of it, so there's no excuses if you screw the pooch on this. So what I do, okay. Now the other day, Friday, when I did this, it was like 85 out here, and I just literally poured it on. Now, it's nice doing it this way with that tape trick, because I don't have to worry about it. If it goes over the edge a little bit, I don't end up with a huge mess. Good enough. Alright. I'm going to clamp this thing together with an absolute shit ton of force. So even if it looks like I'm putting this epoxy on thin, this is going to be more than enough. Okay, but it's a little bit tricky to work with today because it's not warm out, especially for this time of year. We went from 90 and it's supposed to be like 62 on Tuesday and Wednesday or something like that. So, but I'm starting a long-term project that I might do highlights on the channel, but it's not a boat. It's a, let's call it a drone, but it's not a flying one. Anyway, it's a long-term project, and it's not meant to be a tutorial. It's basically going to be a robot type of deal, and I just wanted to do something a little different. Well, it's not different. I've done it before, but I'm going to make this nice. And I'm running out of boats to build. We're still going to do boat runs and tuning videos and all that cool stuff. Don't get me wrong. But I'm waiting for ZippKits to come out with Joe to come out with his new rigger. Even though I already built the prototype for it, and I have it, I'm just not allowed to show you because he didn't want it out in public yet. I built it last spring. I don't think he'll care about me saying that. Super beautiful boat, super fast, looks awesome. I've really enjoyed it. I built it last spring, and he sent me the Joe from ZippKits sent me the prototype. No directions or nothing. Man, thing's fast. It is so, and it's such an improvement over the old Envy. But I don't know. I'm running out of boat kits to build. I need some new stuff. All right. So that should be good. I'm not going to chuck my brush yet. Hang on to that brush. All right. Now we're going to line up our. I know you can't see this. I'll show you when it's done. I'm going to line up my holes. That's it. Now, with clamping, if you read the manual, and this goes for any rigger, see that tape deal? Pretty nice. Any rigger or tunnel, especially a rigger, actually, toe in. Okay, so if this is the front of the boat, These are your sponsons. If it's a rigger, toe in is a good day. Toe out is a bad day. So what I do is I apply a shit ton of force on this clamp, the front one, then a medium force on the middle, and not as much force on the back. Even though it looks like I have a pretty darn good seam there, and I don't think I have any gap issues, doesn't matter. This guarantees me that I will have toe in or at least neutral. Neutral's okay. On a rigger, you always want toe in, but on one of these, neutral, it won't kill you. All right, so I'm going to put a deal of force on that. All right, get some of this shit out of my way. Hey, the sun's coming out. What's up with that? All right, then, just like that. Then the middle one. I'd pick up some new ones. Middle-ish. Nobody's sending you to hell if it's not perfect in the middle. Doesn't matter. But you want that front the tightest. And we're going to put one in the back until the gap disappears. But you don't have to torque the hell out of it. I'll show you guys in a minute here. But with your clamping pressure, stay against the body. Don't put the clamp here, like here and here. Make sure you're within the body. Gives you the pressure. Okay. So there we go. Now I'm going to smear my epoxy off just so it doesn't make a mess when I pull it. See? Even though that epoxy, I'm going to go over this with alcohol, even though that epoxy looked thin when I put it on, when you put that kind of pressure. Okay. Now, what you want to do is check for gap. I have 0. Okay, that's a good day. Now we're going to peel the bottom. This one I got to do kind of under the clamps. It's okay. Bar clamps are a godsend, man. Now, if you're building this boat, any big boat, to be honest, any of them, get 4 at least, I would say, of these 3-footers, 1 meter. Let me grab some alcohol. And get 4 of the 1-footers. You will be amazed how much you use them. Okay. And to get them at Harbor Freight, these were $6 a piece. And they're nice. They really are nice. Okay. So I'm going to take some alcohol on my finger, denatured alcohol, and I'm just going to go along here. I want to get this stuff off. You're not going to hurt it, the epoxy within, by spraying a little bit on the top. But this is going to save you a ton of sanding later. Trust me. All right, let me grab a better rag. And I didn't spray down the other side as well, and I'm going to have to sand the crap out of it. It's not going to hurt the wood. Denatured alcohol evaporates so fast. It's not going to hurt anything. But it saves me sanding. And anything that saves me sanding time, it's a good day. Yeah, I like that. Let me check the bottom. Yeah. That needs some help, so I'm going to do this blind. And I was in a hurry doing the other one because we were getting ready to go to Ohio for the weekend, and I was like, man, I really want to get the sponson on before. I don't want to waste 3 days. That 3 days I can have something curing, you know. And I forgot to wipe the bottom, so now I got a shit ton of sanding to do on the other side bottom. Not the end of the day, end of the world, but oh well. Life happens. There we go. Budamus. Alright. Can you believe we're almost done with this build? As far as the construction. Okay, it's not almost done, but the construction will be done tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to keep this clamp. We're going to double check. Make sure that one's super tight. That one's so tight. It's pretty tight. And that one's tight. Okay. But again, I always clamp the front first. Now, in the manual, it says if you have a gap here, which we don't have any. No, that's a shadow. We don't have any gap. No big deal. But if you did have a gap, like say you dry fit it, and it fit tight there, but you had a gap here, or it fit tight here and you had a gap there, fit it tight here, leave your gap in the back, and then putty the crap out of it after you're done. The gap is okay in the back because that's going to give you toe in the front. If it's tight here and a gap in the front, you're going to have toe out, and it is going to run like a bag of ass. You do not want that. Okay. Let's see what else. And I think that's it. So what we're going to do, we're going to leave this dude clamped up. Hang on, clamped up overnight. And to be quite honest, I've got work stuff to do tomorrow during the day. So it'll probably stay clamped until 3 or 4, and until I can come out here and I get a break. And then I'm just going to leave this clamped up until I'm done with the cowl. So the next step is the cowl. Let's grab that. Then, if you can believe it, our construction will be done. Yeah, we got to put the radio box lid on and all that crap, but I don't count that crap. Okay, let's give you an idea of how big this beast is. Here is a standard size drill. That's a standard size door. It's big. So tomorrow we're going to take the cowl and go by the manual, because he's got a real clever way of doing this. Oh, looks like he even marked it. Or did I do that? I don't know. So your cowl will fit perfectly. So if we take, just for fun, here's the electric. Okay, that's a 31-inch boat. There's the gasser. Now imagine the gasser's going to have a gas engine on the back that far out too. And the cowl that high. So it's going to be impressive. So what I decided to do... Oh, my new motor for the electric outboard's coming tomorrow. So we're putting a 2450 in it. Going to kick it up. But I think I decided to paint this white, believe it or not. Maybe an off-white. I don't know, but I want it to look even bigger. So I think it's going to be really neat. So until tomorrow, kids, keep dry side up, and we'll have Speaks with you on Monday. Bye-bye.